So in this tutorial today, what I would be teaching you is Django Unchained with Python. So if you have any prior experience in programming in Python, then this would be quite easy for you to understand. And if you're not, then too I will be making this as much easier for you as possible from my end. So before I proceed, I would like to ask you a few questions, obviously which I would be answering them myself. So what exactly is Django and what exactly is the need for having a Django? I can myself go ahead and create any kind of websites using Python or let's say HTML, CSS. Then why is Django even needed? The first thing is that Django is spelled as Django because some people are there out there who just think that Django means Jango, which is obviously wrong. So today's tutorial would be all about Django. Django is a web development framework that will save you time and make web development extremely enjoyable. With Django, you can go ahead and build different apps, high-end web applications, and it will make it, and I will try to make it as least boring as possible from my end today. So first, what is Django and what is the framework to start with? To answer this question, let's assume that the design of a web application written in Python without a framework. So throughout this tutorial, I will take this approach of showing you the basic ways of getting works done without shortcuts, and in the hope that you will recognize why shortcuts are so helpful. So it's also valuable to know how to get things done without shortcuts because sometimes shortcuts are just not available. And most importantly, knowing why things work that way will make you a better web developer. So one of the simplest, most direct ways to build a Python web app from scratch is to use the CGI standard, which is the Common Gateway Interface. And it was very popular during the 1990s. I can say it was most popular in 1998, and there's a high level of explanation of how it works. So you can go ahead and search on the web. Over here I would be teaching you a few examples today before I proceed on with Django and Python. So let me just open my notepad. I'll just go ahead and pin it to my taskbar so that it will be easier for me whenever I want to access it. So one of the simplest ways of doing this is through using the CGI method, as I told you. So here's an example of Python CGI script that will display the most recent published books from a database, for example. So just don't worry if you don't understand most of the things, because I don't expect you to understand all of these things in one bit. But if you are a Python developer, for if you are watching this tutorial, then you will be able to understand this quite easier. And I'm just assuming that this code was written by me in Linux, so I'm assuming that you have a Linux system. So if you don't, then still you will be able to understand it. It's not that quite hard. So to start with, I'll just go ahead and slash user slash bin slash environment Python. If you're unable to understand what I have written, is that in case you're adding a script in, let's say, Linux, then you need to go ahead and use this command, because it will go ahead and show the computer that where my environment in Python is exactly. If you're not using Linux, then you don't need to use this. You can just directly start typing over here. So I will be start typing since I have the Windows version. And I have not yet installed Python, any of the versions as of now. I'll be showing you in detail as to how each of them works. So this is a simple script as to how it was previously before Django was introduced. Period db print content hyphen type colon text slash html slash n. Perfect. Print colon ht okay, sorry, ht okay, html head title. No, I don't need it for books, since books would be the title. And I'll go ahead and close the title and the head as well. Okay, okay, fine, perfect. And then I'll go ahead and print the body, so I'll just type print in space body print And now since I would be I need to go there and insert that body and the books as well as inside the header one, because I need that in a bigger tag. So I'll just type h1. So if you're not able to understand this a bit, I will explain it to you. What I'm doing is I'm simply writing a Python code over here, but inside the Python code I have written an HTML tags, because yeah, simply because I'm going ahead and creating a web page. So these are the HTML tags which start with the arrows, and all the HTML tags need an ending tag except some. So that's why I have given the ending tags. If you're using XHTML or HTML5, the HTML5 is quite smart enough for itself to go ahead and give the ending tags, but again, sometimes there are issues, so it would be probably better if you go ahead and give these tags and ending tags yourself. Connection equals to my SQL.db, which means database dot connect. User would be me. Let's say, for example, let's say the password would be, let's say, for example, abcd@123, and let's say my database name would be equals to my underscore db. Okay, perfect. That's how it will get connected. The cursor would be the connection cursor, and the execution of cursor would be, sorry, cursor, yeah, that was it, sorry, execute. Okay, I think I'll need to change my keyboard, it's quite hard. Select name from books order by publish date, descending limit 10, and I'll close. Perfect. And I'll just go ahead and add the rows for row in cursor.fetch all, print, and I'll just write, let's say, for example, li percent s colon. I'll go ahead and close the li tab, and since I need to print the row, I'll just type print row. Okay, 0, print ul, perfect, underline, and print the body in the end. HTML, and I'll go ahead and close the connection, periods, close. So the first thing is to fulfill the requirements of CGI. This code that I have written, it prints a content type line in the start, so which is followed by a blank line. So it prints some introductory HTML which connects to a database, and then it runs a query to retrieve all the names of the latest books, whichever books it may be. And now when I have written these for, it goes ahead and creates a loop. For is a loop that is used in most programming languages. So it runs a loop and it generates a HTML list of the titles till all the things are completed, and finally it prints the closing HTML and closes the database connection. So with the one-off page like this one, which is written from scratch approach, it is not necessarily bad. For one thing, this code is simple to comprehend. Even a novice developer can read the 16 lines of Python, and it's very easy to understand everything it does from start to finish even. So there's nothing else to learn, no other code to read. It's also simple to deploy. Then save this code in a file and just end it with like period CGI, upload that file to a web server and visit that web page with a browser. So now you may be thinking that it's quite easy to understand, like even if you're not a developer, you just have the basic information of how a programming or a scripting language is, it will be quite easy for you to understand. But despite its simplicity, this approach has a number of problems and annoyances. Let me go through some simple questions over these. What happens when multiple parts of your applications need to connect to a database? Surely that database connecting code should not be duplicated in each individual CGI script. The pragmatic thing to do would be the refactor it into the shared function, for example. And should a developer really have to worry about printing the content type line and remembering to close the database connection? I don't think so. This sort of thing reduces programmer productivity and introduces opportunities for mistake. The setup and tear down related tasks would be best handled by some common infrastructure. That's by itself, for example. What happens when the code is reused in multiple environments, each with a separate database and password? At this point, some environment specific configuration becomes essential. What happens when a web designer who has no experience coding Python wishes to redesign the web page? One wrong character and the entire application would crash. Ideally, the logic of this page is the retrieval of book titles from the database would be separate from the HTML display of the page so that the designer could edit the later without affecting the former. That should be the main aim as well. These problems are precisely what a framework intends to solve. A web framework provides a programming infrastructure for your application so that you can focus on writing clean, maintainable code without having to reinvent the wheel. That's what Django does. So people watching this tutorial should understand the basics of the procedural and object-oriented programming control structures, variables, classes, and objects. So you should know what hashes are, what dictionaries are, and all those things. At the core, Django is simply a collection of libraries written in Python programming language. To develop a site using Django, you need to know what Python does. You write Python code that uses these libraries. Learning Django is just a matter of learning how to program in Python and understanding how the Django libraries work. If you have prior experience in Python, you should have no trouble diving in. Uh, yeah, and the Django code doesn't perform a lot of magic. And when I say magic, it does not mean our daily term magic. There's a proper trick which is called as magic. That means implementation is difficult to explain or understand. So for you, learning Django will be a matter of learning Django's conventions and APIs as well. So yeah, that would be it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'll be continuing with the installation of Python, which Python version to use, and which Django version are we gonna use, and how does it support in the long term. Welcome to the next tutorial for Django Unchained. So being a Python web framework, Django requires Python, and Python includes a lightweight database called as SQLite. So you won't need to set up a database since you are just learning it right now. My tutorial will cover Django 1.8, and as of now I will be using Python 2.7. You can even start using Python if you know already Python. You can start using with Python 3.3 or 3.4. Probably according to the documentation of Django and Python. Django will support a Python version up to, let's say, including the Django LTS release, whose security support will end after the security support for that of when Python ends. For example, Python 3.3 security ends on 2017 September, and Django 1.8 LT security support will end on April 2018. Therefore, Django 1.8 will be the last version to support Python 3.3. And as of Django 1.6, Python 3 support is considered stable and you can safely use it in production as well. So the community of Python is still in process of migrating third-party packages and applications to Python 3, and that is the reason why I would be using the Python 2.7 version. So if you're starting a new project and the dependencies you plan to work on Python 3, you should be using Python 3. If they don't, consider contributing to porting your efforts and stick to Python 2.x, whichever version. So since newer versions of Python are often faster and have more features and are better supported, all else being equal, I would recommend you to use Python 2.7 or Python 3.3 rather than using Python 2.5 or any other version. So either way, you don't lose anything in Django by using the older release, but you don't take advantage of the improvements and the optimizations in the newer Python releases as well. Third-party applications for use with Django are of course free to set their own version requirements. So let's see which version to use as well as of now. I'll be closing this since I won't be needing them. Okay. So Django is an implementation which can be run on Python as well as Jython. If you know what Jython is, good. If you don't know, I will be explaining this to you because you need to know which version inside Python are you going to use. Jython is an implementation of Python that runs on a Java platform, that's JVM. And today's tutorial, I will be explaining to you how to run Java, how to run Django on the top of Jython as well. So to install Jython, you can go ahead and use the Jython version 2.7b2 and higher. You can go ahead and see the Jython website for download and installation instructions. I would be using the Python version and not Jython, so I won't be going ahead and teaching you that. So if you want to experiment with Django, Django includes a lightweight web server that you can use for testing. So you won't need to set up anything else until you are ready to deploy Django in production. If you want to use Django on a production site, you would better use a Java servlet container such as Apache Tomcat, full Java EE, and applications servers such as Glassfish or JBoss. And they're also okay if you need to use extra features as well. So any part of Django that requires pillow will not work in Jython, however. So that's for Java Python, Jython. Yeah, that's Java Python. Now let's get started with installing Python and Django in our computer. To install Python, you can straight away go to the over here and you can just type download Python. Over here you have different versions. I would be using the Python 2.7 version. So I'll just click on that. I was, however, using the Python. Okay, it's 2.7.10. Okay, I believe I was using the 9 version, so I'll download that one. So, or rather, I'll just go download the latest version. And make sure that whenever you install Python, you also install pip along with that, because if you don't, then it will create an extreme mess for you. That's why I'll be teaching you how, and we will be installing Django through pip as well. I believe it's downloaded. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and copy it to my system. And since I won't be needing this anymore, I'll just go ahead and install. When you install Python 2.7 or 3.3, make sure that when you install, there's an option over here which is by default it is not ticked. You need to select entire feature will be installed on the local hard drive. If not, then you will have to go over here in the my computer path. Once you have installed advanced system settings, environment variables, create a new one. So variable name would be system, and the value would be the place where your actually Python is located. So instead of doing all of these things, make sure that you probably go ahead and add the Python exe to the path, else it will be a hell lot of mess for you. So let this thing get installed. Okay, done. So once it is done, you can go ahead and open your command prompt. I would be going ahead and putting it to this taskbar. And over here, I'll just type Python and it should start. Perfect. So the path is installed, so anything I can go ahead and start everything over from over here. So I'll just go ahead and exit. Perfect. So now to install Python, since we have installed Python, you even would have installed the pip as well. If not, I can go ahead and show you how to install. Change Python 2.7. Over here, make sure that even this is perfectly selected. If not, then you will probably have another error that you won't be able to install Django, because you would be using the easy install pip to go ahead and install the proper method. So if you're not installed pip, then you can go ahead and try to use this code such as python easy underscore install pip. It will go ahead and install the pip version, but I won't be doing that because I have already installed a pip version, which is the latest version. So now I would need to go ahead and install Django version. So the version which I'm teaching you right now is has been tested with Windows 7 and 8, and even in other smaller versions such as XP, it would be the same. But I would suggest you using a Windows 7 because Windows 8 is full of bugs, and Windows XP no one uses it nowadays. So Django is a Python framework that's requiring Python to be installed on your machine. I have shown you how you can go ahead and install all of these things. You might need to adjust specific things if you are not use the environment variables. If you are unable to start Python from the default prompt, then that means that you have not yet installed the Python through the variables properly. So what you could do is go over here, advanced system settings, and then go in the environment variables, create a new one, and add a new path over here. So what you could do is that you could just type Python over here, and over here you can just type C colon slash Python 27 and slash, and you can type C colon again Python 27 slash, okay, it's the other slash, and scripts. So but over here I have installed it when I was installing the Python, so I don't need to go ahead and install the specific variable. So I'll just go ahead and cancel that. So to install Python package on your computer, setup tools are needed, and so you just go ahead and download the proper version, and then everything will be installed. So alternatively, what you could do once you have installed these versions, you can go ahead and install Django. Django can be easily installed by using the pip. In the command prompt, execute the following command that I would be typing, and this will download and install Django. So I'll just type pip install Django, Django. No matching distribution found for Django. Let me check. Okay, let me check. Django. Okay. Okay, I think it is because of the latest 2.7 version. I'll straight away go and uninstall that. Python. Just go and cancel this. Yes, and I'll select and download. Okay, I believe it is installed. Okay, so not installed, downloaded. Okay, so I'll just install it. Okay, 64-bit not supported. Okay, I'll just have to install the 2.7.9 version and entire feature. Okay, next. Okay, let's wait till this gets complete. Now let's go ahead and start our command prompt, and let's see it works. Okay, pip install Django. Okay, so it's getting installed. So as you can see, the Python is installed as of now. So now in order for us to go ahead and check whether the Django distribution is working, you can just type django Django-admin, and you can just type space version, and we'll show you that I have the latest 1.8.3. So now since I have the Django already installed, let's go on to the next step. So now let's go ahead and create a simple kind of a web application. Let's go ahead and create a public site that will let people to go ahead and vote their views, and we will also have an administrative interface that will let us add, change, and delete different views. So assuming that you have Django already installed, you can tell Django which version is installed by going ahead and typing Django admin version, or you can also go ahead and just type Python if you want to go from inside the Python import Django and print colon Django period get. This is actually the proper way of going ahead and getting your Django version, and it will go ahead and show you the proper Django version. So if Django is installed, you should see this version of your installation. If it isn't, then you will get an error telling no module named Django. That means that it has not been installed. So this tutorial is written for Django 1.8 and Python 2.7 or later. If the Django version does not match, you can refer to this tutorial for your version of Django by using the version switcher at the bottom right corner of the page of the Django. Or you can go ahead and update the Django to the newest version. You can go ahead and check the latest version of Django. You can type simply pip install Django and whichever the version would be. So now, before I proceed, let me tell you some important principles of Django. The first principle is less code. Django apps should use as little code as possible. They should lack boilerplate. Django should take full advantage of Python's dynamic capabilities such as introspection. And these things which I'm telling you is not said by me but by the Django documentation itself. Django refers to quick development. The point of a web framework, may it be Django or be it Ruby or on Rails, the point of a web framework in today's date is to make the tedious aspects of web development as fast as possible. Django should allow you for incredibly quick web development. Next point would be don't repeat yourself. DRY. That is the most important aspect of a web development. Each distinct concept, or let's say a piece of data, should live within one place only. Redundancy is extremely bad. Normalization is good. You don't need to go ahead and repeat yourself, else it will only go ahead and mess up the whole place. The framework within reason should deduce as much as possible and as little as possible. The next point would be explicit is better than implicit. This is the core, even the Python principle which is listed in the PEP 20 documentation, and it means that Django should not do too much magic. Magic should not happen unless there's a really good reason for it. Magic is only worth if it only creates a huge convenience unattainable in other ways, and it isn't implemented in a way that confuses developers who are trying to learn how to use the feature. Next thing would be consistency. This framework should be consistent at all levels. Consistency applies to everything from low level, that is the Python coding style used, to high level, the experience of the using of Django. Then the final term would be models. Explicit is better than implicit. Fields should assume certain behavior which is based solely on the name of the field. This requires too much knowledge of the system and is prone to errors as well. Instead of that, behavior should be based on keyword arguments, and in some cases on the type of the field. So now we know the how to install Django. We have Django on our machine, and we even know the basic aspects of how Django works. Less coding and high-end web applications. So let's go ahead and create a project, and let's see how we can go ahead and create a proper project. And by the end of these tutorials, we will be able to go ahead and create a proper website along with different web applications. So the first thing that we would want to do is I will go ahead and close this specific stuff. I'll go ahead and create a new folder over here, and I'll name it, let's say, the thing which we would be going ahead and creating. Let's say, for example, blog. So, or let me just think, we need something different. So let's the blogger. Okay, so we will go ahead and create website named blogger. And as of now, for naming any project, if this is your first time using Django, you will have to take some care of the initial setup. You will need to auto-generate some code that establishes a Django project. A collection of settings for an example of Django, including database configuration, Django specific options, and application specific settings. Okay, so you must be thinking, whoa, what are these things? It's getting a bit over the head. So you don't need to actually take care of these things. From the command line, just cd into the directory where you are trying to locate your code, and then run the following code. So you can simply open a command prompt and then cd into the directory, or you can just go into the proper folder where you are actually trying to cd into, type shift and click on shift and right click, and you will see open command window over here. So just click on that, and since this is open in the same folder, now over here just go ahead and type in the following thing which I would go ahead and tell you over here. Just type Django -admin space start project my site, or that would be the name. For example, over here it would be the blogger, since I am going ahead and creating, and I'll just use everything in small terms, the blogger. Perfect. So that would be the name, and as you can see, automatically a folder is created, and you can see a few things which are already created inside that. which has been created by Django itself. This is a manage.py, and then we have the initialization settings, which is empty. We have a settings py file, which gives us a lot of things, as you can see, which I will be explaining them in detail later on. We have the URLs part, and then I have the WSGI. Perfect. So what the code over here did was that it created a simple the blogger directory inside the current directory where I was. And if you did not see any problems while running this command, then it means that you are running Django admin properly. And just note that whenever you are writing or naming a project, don't name this specific project which have similar, you can say, as similar syntaxes inside the Django. You'll need to avoid naming projects which are built in Python or Django components. For example, this means that you should avoid using names like Django, project names such as Django or test, which will go ahead and confuse the built-in Python packages or the Django itself. And if you think that where will this code live after you have created the project, if you have background in plain old if you have a background which is in plain old PHP with no use of modern frameworks, you'll probably be used to putting the code under the web servers document in a place such as var or var www folder. With Django, you don't do that. It's not a good idea to put any of the Python code which will risk your security, because it is the possibility that people may be able to go ahead and view your code over the web, and that is not good for security. Just put it under the home or the desktop area and name it anything. So now let's take a look at what we have in these things. We have the manage, and we have the WSGI settings initialization, and previously you can see that we had only these settings. Now we have two things more, initialization and settings, that were because I double clicked the manage part. So just created two pyc files, as you can see. So the outer MySQL directory is just a container for your project. Its name does not actually matter to Django. You can rename it to anything else you like. That means this specific folder. You can rename it to anything you like, and as of now, I'm just keeping it as it is. Here, manage.py. It is a command line utility that lets you interact with the Django project in various ways. You can read all the details over here, so I'll just go ahead and open. Just you can see, it imports the OS part, it imports the system part. If initialization name is main, then the OS environment default, set the default to Django settings module, and from Django core management, import the execute from command line. That means I can go ahead and use this from any command line as well. So after that, we have the init. So to be more specific, init is an empty file that tells Python that this directory should be considered as a Python package. My site settings over here, it will give the settings and configurations for the Django project, and Django settings will tell you about how settings work. I won't be explaining that to you right now. I'll be explaining that to you later on. After that, we have the URLs, and the URL declaration is for the Django project. That's a table of contents of your Django powered site. We can read more about that later on. And finally, we have WSGI. It's an entry point for WSGI compatible web servers to serve your project. You don't need to know much about that right now. As I continue with this tutorials, he will be explained in detail from me that as to how it works exactly. Now just open proper settings.py over here, and as you can see, it's a normal Python module with module level variables representing Django settings. And by default, it will go ahead and use the configuration file, that's SQLite. So yes, by default it uses SQLite. You can go ahead and use any other things if you want, to just PostgreSQL or any other part which you want. So I won't be explaining this detail as of now. I would be explaining that in detail in the next tutorial. So that is it, guys, for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I will be continuing with the database part and the engine and how it works exactly. To the next tutorial of Django Unchained or Django with Python or Django for Python, anything. So now, since we were talking about the database part, let me just go into the settings and I'll show you some few details. Let me show you. As you can see, we have the app directories. By default, it uses SQLite 3, the database, And whenever you're going ahead and actually applying this specific stuff, make sure that you allow some of the specific host and debugging is allowed to false. Else, I won't be explaining that to you what it does, because once you do it, you will come to know that how insecure your website will be. Even the Django documentation by itself, they have provided a security warning that don't run with the debug on in production, because it will allow anyone to go and edit or do any kind of stuff that they want to your website, which you don't want to. And once you have set it to false, just go ahead and make sure that you allow some of the stuff which will go ahead and be which will be using your this website path. So for example, if I'm hosting it somewhere on the local host, it will be something like local host. And for example, if I'm placing it at multiple places, it will be on the over here. If I have some specific website, then it will be like www dot specific, or it will be like the blogger.com. It would be something like this. So now, and if you want anything or everything which would be a security risk again, even with debugging false, then you can go ahead and just type an asterisk over here, and it will go ahead and select everything to work. So as of now, I'll be keeping this empty and I will be keeping this true, since I need to go ahead and edit this every now and then. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and quit. And before I proceed, if you want to use any other database other than SQLite, if you're new to you're using databases, or you're just interested in typing Django, then this is the easiest choice, that is SQLite. SQLite is included in Python, so you won't need to install anything else to support your database. When starting your first real project, however, you may want to use a more robust database such as PostgreSQL to avoid database switching headaches later on. If you wish to use any other database, install the appropriate database bindings and change the following keys in the database to default item to match your database settings. The first thing that you would want to go ahead and change would be the engine part. That is either django.db.sqlite, or let me just go over there. Okay, either it would be the engine name would be django.db.sqlite3, or if you are, or it can be django.db.backends.postgresql underscore post psy copy g2, or django.db.backends period mysql, or django.db.backends.oracle. So there are multiple other things like that. There are other backends also available that you would want to change. The next thing that you want to change would be the name. That's os.part.join. This is the name of your database. If you're running SQLite, the database of will be on a file on your computer. In that case, name should be the full absolute path, including the file name of that file. As you can see over here, base directory db period SQLite3. The default value would be os.part.join base underscore dir, and whatever the database will be. It will be stored in your project directory itself. If you're not using SQLite as a database, additional settings such as user, password, host must be added. So yeah, that's it. If you're using PostgreSQL or MySQL, make sure you have created a database by this point. Do that by going ahead and using the create database in the interactive database prompt. If you're using SQLite, you don't need to create anything beforehand. The database file will be created automatically when it is needed. And while you're editing this specific the blogger settings.py, set the time zone to your time zone. Also note that the installed app settings on what you're actually trying to install. If you are using SQLite, you don't need to do anything. Again, note that install app settings at the top of the file. This holds the names of all the Django applications that are activated in Django instance. Apps can be used in multiple projects, and you can package and distribute them for use by others in the projects. By default, installed apps contain these apps. As you can see, Django contribution admin, authorization, content type, sessions, messages, and static files. After that, these applications are included by default as a convenience for the common case. Some of these applications make use of at least one database table, though we need to create the tables in the database before we can use them. To do that, just run the command such as over here. I'll just go ahead and open it over here. Command window. Okay. So over here, I'll just go ahead and Okay, perfect. So I'll just go ahead and type, let's say, python manage.py, and I'll just type migrate. Okay, it's manage.py, and we'll go ahead and, as you can see, it's initializing everything over here. Even the db period SQLite is created. Perfect. So some of these applications make use of at least one database table though. So we need to create the tables in the database before you can use them. So this is how it is done by typing Python. Uh, just Yeah, I don't think I can go ahead and expand it in Windows 7. This is how it will look like: Python space manage.py migrate, and it will go ahead and migrate all the things that manage.py has redirected it to. The migrate commands looks at the installed app settings and creates any necessary database tables. And according to the database settings in the blogger settings.py, it will find and create the database that will be shipped with the app, which I will be covering later on. So you will see a message for each migration it applies. As you can see, authorization, admin, content type, and everything else. If you're interested, you can run the command line client for database by typing /dt for PostgreSQL, show tables, or the schema for SQLite to display the tables created by Django. So you can just type migrate, and you can just type CHEMA. I won't be going ahead and doing that, but just in case you want to see. For the minimalist, as I said above, default applications are included for the common case, but not everybody needs them. If you don't need any of them at all, free go ahead and comment it out or delete the appropriate lines of the installed apps before running migrate. The migrate command will only run migrations for apps in the installed apps. To go ahead and discard them out, just go to the settings.py and go ahead and comment it out by typing the hash in front of it. And it will not be going to, you can say, as installed or migrated. So let's verify whether this Django project works. Now go ahead into another directory over here if you haven't already, and run this command from over here. So I'll just quit and start it again. And just go ahead and type the following command: python manage period py space run server. And okay, so the server is already started. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and type shift and mark, and I'll just go ahead and copy all of these things, and I'll paste it over here. Okay, I believe it was not copied because I don't think we could copy. Okay, perfect. I need to press shift. And okay, perfect. So as you can see, congratulations on your first Django Power project, and debug is true, and you haven't configured any of your URLs. Perfect. So this is our service is already started, as you can see. And in order for me to break, I can type control and pause break, and it will go ahead and stop the web page. Perfect. So when going ahead and running, you can see that it checks the name of the blogger settings, and it starts the server. So it will also go ahead and give you you can also go ahead and perform checks over here as well. You have started a Django server development, a lightweight server within Python, and yeah, blah blah blah. So now it's a good thing time to note: don't use the server in anything resembling to a production environment. It's intended only when developing, and because we are in business for making web frameworks and not web servers. Note that the server is running at this specific address, that's 127 period 0 period 0 period 1 colon and 8000 with your web browser. You will also see a welcome message as I showed you previously. Now if you don't want to use the port to 8000, you can also go ahead and change that server by passing a command line argument. For this instance, this command start the server on the port 8080, for example. So what I could just do is I could just type python manage period py, I can start run server. If I want to run it on 8080, I'll just type 8080 and I'll hit enter. And I can just go ahead and type this new mark. Okay, I don't know whether it was copied or not. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and edit this. Perfect. So it's now started on the port of 8080. So you have the flexibility of going ahead and modifying all of these stuff. So I'll just stop it. Perfect. So now there are different ways of going ahead and doing that. If you want to change the server's IP address as well, just pass it along with the port. So to listen to all public IP address, you can also go ahead and do that. So I can just type Python space, and I can just type manage period py, and for example, if I want to run it on the specific port, for example 8080, and I'll just go ahead and hit enter. Okay, Python manager. Okay, I forgot to type run server. Let's see, allow access, and as you can see, it's already been created. I believe it's copied. Okay, it's not. I'll just go ahead and type 00 and 80. Okay. Okay, let me check. I believe that it's 080. Okay, let me just go ahead and check it for 8000. Okay, so I have not allowed the public IP address, that's why it's not working. If now and then. To the next tutorial for Django programming with Python, and it's not exactly programming but similar stuff. So welcome to Django Unchained. So in the previous tutorial, I taught you how we could go ahead and uphost this specific website and web page, and on our local host or any IP address and any local port. So I'll just go ahead and start the command window. I'll close this one. Okay, so each application we write in Django, it will consist of Python package that will follow a certain type of way. Django automatically comes with a utility that creates a basic directory structure for an app, so you can go ahead and focus on creating directories rather than doing anything else. So now let's see our projects versus the apps. What's the difference between a project and app? An app is a web application that does something. For example, a weblog system or a database of public records or a simple poll application. A project is a collection of configuration and applications for a particular website. A project can run multiple apps, and an app can be inside multiple projects. Your apps can live anywhere on your Python part. In our tutorial, I'll create our poll app right next to our manage.py file so that it can be imported as its own top level module rather than a submodule of the Blogger website. So to create an app, make sure you have entered in the same directory as manage.py and you have used this command. So I don't remember where it was. So okay, so just click right click and I'll select open command window over here. And since I'm over here, I'll just go ahead and create, let's say for example, I'll start an app and I'll name it as mypolls.app. So I'll just minimize this and I'll type python manage.py space start app space polls. So it should go ahead and create something kind of polls over here. Okay, perfect. As you can see, I have the folder poll with different py files inside that: initialization, admin, models, text. I'll just go ahead and open the models file, test file. So as you can see, we have multiple empty files with just with the initialization statements in that, so that we can go ahead and import anything that we want. So now, as you can see, we have different directories over here. So the first step in writing a database web application in Django is to define our models, especially our database layout with additional metadata. The philosophy is that a model is a single definitive source of truth about your data. It contains the essential fields and behaviors of our data we are storing. Django follows the DRY principle as I told you previously. The goal is to define our data model in one place and automatically derive all the things from inside out of that specific data. This includes migrations as well, which is unlike on Ruby on Rails. For example, migrations are entirely derived from your model's file, and they're essentially just a history that Django can roll through to update our database scheme to match our current models. In our simple poll app, I have created two models. I will be creating two models, that's questions and choice. A question has a question and a publication date. A choice has two fields, that is the text of a choice and a vote. Each choice is associated with a question. These concepts are represented by simple Python classes. Edit the polls models period file. So it looks like something like this. I'll just go ahead and open it. So it looks like this from Django import models. I'll just go ahead and format it a bit so that, let me say if, okay, I'll just go ahead and increase it to, let's say 12 or maybe 14. Okay, so now you can see everything right over here. So as you can see from Django.db import models, and I'll go ahead and create my models over here. So below the comment tag that's create your models over here. So I'll just type the first thing, that would be class space question, and I'll type models period del, that's from the model tab, and colon, and I'll type question underscore text equals to models period char field max underscore length equals to 200. So question underscore text equals to models period char field max length 200, and I'll type publish underscore date equals to models period date time field, and I'll just go ahead and write the date published, and I'll go ahead and write another class that would be for the choice since I have created the question. So I'll just type choice, and I'll type models period model since it is again inside the model, and question equals to, let's say more, I'll go ahead and add the foreign key. So models period foreign key question, now the choice underscore text equals to models period char field, and the char length equals to 200. So question equals to model foreign key question, and published date equals to choice text equals to models period char field max length 200. And the final thing would be the vote, since we would be using a vote as well. Votes equals to models period integer, since it would be the numeric field, then default equals to 0. Perfect, and I'll just go ahead and save it. So the code is actually self-explanatory, it's quite straightforward. Each model is represented by a class that subclasses DjangoDB models underscore model. So each model has a number of class variables, each of which represents a database field in the model. Each field is represented by an instance of a field class. Example, char field for character fields and date time field for date times. This tells Django what type of data each field holds. The name of each field instance, example, question underscore text or a publish underscore date, it is the field's name in machine friendly format. You will use this value in your Python code, and your database will use it in this column name. You can use an optional first positional argument to a field to designate a human readable name. That's used in a couple of different parts of Django. It doubles as documentation, and If this field isn't provided, Django will use the machine readable name. In this example, we have only defined a human readable name for question, that's pub underscore date, for publish underscore date. For all other fields in this model, the field's machine readable name will suffice as its human readable name. Some field classes have required arguments. Char field, for example, requires that you give it a max length. That's used not only in database schema but in validation as well. A field can also have various optional arguments. In this case, we have set the default value of votes to 0. Finally, note that a relationship is defined using the foreign key. This tells Django each choice is related to a single question. Django supports all the common database relationships: many to one, many to many, and one to one. So now, since we know how we have created the models, let's go ahead and activate these models. That simple bit of model code gives Django a lot of information. With this, Django is able to create a database scheme for this app, create a Python database access API for accessing question and choice objects. But first, we need to tell our project that poll app is installed. So the philosophy behind this is that Django apps are pluggable. You can use an app in multiple projects and you can distribute apps as well. Because they don't have to be tied to a Django installation, that's the reason. Edit the settings inside over here. I'll just go ahead and quit and go back over here. And over here, you can go ahead and edit the settings.py, and you can add specific stuff over here. So now I would be going ahead and adding the polls tab over here, and I would be changing the install app settings to include the string polls. So it would look something like this. I'll just type colon and I'll type polls and comma. Perfect. I'll save it. So after doing this, know that Django knows to include the polls app. Now let's go back and to over here. I'll just go ahead and open a new one. Okay, so now what I would do is I would go ahead and run a make migration poll. Previously I ran Python manage period py and migrate. I ran this poll, but it will not exactly go ahead and do stuff, because as you can see, it's not defined and we have got several errors. So what I would do is I would go ahead and run the make migration poll. So I'll just type Python manage period py and I'll type make migrations space polls. Okay, name model is not defined. Okay, let me check if there are any mistakes from my end. Okay, model, perfect. It should be models, and I'll save it. I'll go back and now I'll just try to run the polls. As you can see, it ran at this point of time since there was a mistake from my end. Now we have three options over here: create model choice, create model question, add field question to the choice. So by running make migrations, you are telling Django that you have made some changes to your models. In this case, you have made the new ones, and you like the changes to be stored as a migrations. So yeah, that is it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'll be teaching you how migrations are important in Django and how they are stored and changed into models. They are again converted into just simple files into disk. So that would be it for this tutorial, and thank you guys. To the next tutorial for Django Unchained. So in the previous tutorial, we saw how we could go ahead and import different modules. So I created this simple polls model, and I imported this file by going ahead and typing py import. Okay, I'll just go and show it over here again. So I just start by typing py manage period py and make migrations, and no changes detected. And I'll just go ahead and simply migrate all of them by typing migrate, and as you can see, everything has been done. So migrations are how Django stores changes to your models and thus the database scheme. So they are just simple files on the disk. You can read the migration for your new model if you like. It's under the polls migrations tab, initial py. So I'll just show it to you, polls migrations initial, and I'll just go ahead and open it. Initial, perfect. As you can see, we have the choice and the question both added. We again have the add field to choice and questions and the foreign key as well. That's where you can go ahead and see those changes, but make sure that you don't edit any of these things over there. If you want, you need to go ahead and simply add that from over here. So there's a command that will run migrations for you, and you can actually tweak some of this stuff. Don't worry, you're not expected to read them every time Django makes changes, but they are designed to be human editable in case you want to manually tweak how Django changes things. And there is a command that will run migrations for you and manage your database scheme automatically, and that's called as migrate. We will come to it in a moment, but let's first see how SQL works and that migration would run. And the SQL migrate command takes migration names and returns their SQL. So I'll just type Python space manage period py and SQL migrate polls. Let's go ahead and migrate the polls from the SQL and space 0001. Okay, as you can see, you should see something like this over there. If not, then there is some error with your Django. The exact output will vary depending upon which database you are using. However, the example over here that is generated is for PostgreSQL. Table names are automatically generated by combining the name of app, polls, and the lowercase name of the model, that's question and choice. You can override their behavior, however. Primary keys are added automatically. You can override them too. By convention, Django appends the underscore ID to the foreign ID, foreign key field name. You can also override this as well. The foreign key relationship is made explicitly by a foreign key constraint. So don't worry about the different parts. They're just telling PostgreSQL to not enforce the foreign key until the end of the transaction. It's tailored to database that you are using. So database specific field types such as auto increment in MySQL and serial in PostgreSQL or integer primary key auto increment in SQLite are handled for you automatically. Same goes for quoting of field names. Example, using double quotes or single quotes. The SQL command doesn't actually run the migration on your database. It just prints it to, you can say, as to the screen so that you can see what SQL Django it thinks is required. It is useful for checking what Django is going to do, or if you have database administrators who require SQL scripts for changes. If you are interested, you can also run python manage.py check if you want to go ahead and make some editing. Python manage.py and check, and we'll go ahead and check if there were any issues before you go ahead and migrate, so that you can go ahead and check if there are any problem that's persisting in your project without making migrations or touching the database. So now run migrate again to go ahead and see these changes in your database. Just type python manage period py migrate, and since there are no changes because I have applied them previously as well, the migrate command takes all the migrations that have not been applied. Django tracks which ones are applied using a special table in your database called Django migrations, and it runs them against your database, essentially synchronizing the changes you made to your models with the scheme in the database. Migrations are very powerful, and they let you change your models over time as you develop your project without a need to delete your database or tables and make new ones. It specializes in upgrading your database live without losing data. I'll cover them in more depth in a later part of this tutorial, but for now, remember the 3-step guide to making model changes over here are available. The first thing is that change your models in models py. Run python manage period py make migrations to create migrations for those changes. Run python manage py migrate to apply these changes to the database. The reason that there are separate commands to make and apply migration is because you will commit migrations to your version control system and ship them with your app. They not only make your development easier, they're also usable by other developers and in other productions as well. You can go ahead and read the Django admin documentation full for further information. But as of now, I think that the information that I'm providing would be sufficient enough. Later on, you can still go ahead and check the documentation. So now let's go ahead and play with the API. Let's hop into the interactive Python shell and play around with some free API Django that Django gives. To invoke the Python shell, use this command. You can go ahead and use this command by typing python manage period py shell, and we'll go ahead and open the interactive console of our Python. That's the same as Python interpreter. So you can also go ahead and simply type python because but the difference over here is that manage.py sets the Django settings module environment variable, which gives Django the Python import path to your blogger settings.py file. So if you'd rather not use the manage.py, no problem. You can also go ahead and use the Django period settings module environment variable to my settings, and you can go ahead and start a plain Python shell and set up the Django. So, and just in case you want to know where these important admin files are, you can just go to my computer, local disk C, Python, and over here, okay, let me check. I believe it was in TCL. Okay, over here we have site packages and we have Django, and over here you can see the Django admin file, which looks exactly like this. Perfect. So in case you don't want to go from over here, you can simply go ahead and just you want to go from the Python console, you can just type Python import Django, and then you can go ahead and type Django period setup. As you can see, it's running perfectly. If you see any kind of other issues such as traceback error or something, then you're probably using a wrong version of Django that does not match the version that you were using previously. So I would just go ahead and use the previous one, shell. Perfect. So you must run Python from the same directory that manage.py is on, or ensure that the directory is on the Python part so that import my site works by itself. So for more information on all this, you can also see the Django documentation again. So once you're in this shell, let's go ahead and explore the database API. So I'll just type from polls. I have no way to go to increase the font size, so you'll have to bear with me. So I'll just type from polls dot models import question choice, and so what I'm doing, I'm importing the models that we have just written. So as of now, they have no system in the question set. So let's see what it is gives us. Objects period all. As you can see, empty bracket, that means we have no question. So let's go ahead and create a question support for our time zones, which is enabled by default in the settings file. Django expects a date time with TZ info, that's time zone info for the published date. So use the correct time zone that you have as per your area. And instead of date time and time zone now, we will go ahead and do the right thing, that is something different. So what I'll do is I'll just type from Django period utils, and I'll just go ahead and import the time zone entirely, and I'll type q equals to question bracket question underscore text equals to what's new, that would be our question, and I'll go ahead and give it a published date. Question equals to question underscore text what's new published date equals to time zone period now, and I'll hit enter. And now I need to go ahead and save this object into our database, so I'll go ahead and call the save explicitly. Now it has an ID. Note that if you go ahead and check, if you're using an old version of Python like 2.2, 2.3, 2.5, it may say 1L or 1 depending upon the long end on which database you're using. That's not a big deal. It just means that database backend prefers to return integers as Python long integer object. Since I'm using Python 2.7, mine will be just 1. So I'll just type QID. So next thing, I'll just go ahead and check if my question that I entered was entered perfectly. So I'll just type text what's new, and if I go ahead and type published date, I have the UTC info. That means that if I go ahead and check the date time, it should again be UTC. That is today's date, that's August 2nd 2015, and yeah, that's how it works. So yeah, after this, now let's go ahead and display all the questions in the database. So before that, I need to go ahead and create one, so I'll just type q period question underscore text equals to what's up and question mark, and I'll type q period save. Now let's go ahead and display all the question that we have. Wait a minute, let me just check. Question, okay, the spelling was Question. Perfect. Object. Now this seems bad. Question equals to question object. It is not actually helping us to represent this object. So let's fix this by editing the question model method to both the question and the choice as well. But that would be it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'll be going ahead and creating different objects for both of them, and they would be looking quite to the next tutorial for Django Unchained. And I know that's a movie name, but that's what I will be calling for that in this tutorial. So let's go ahead and in the previous tutorial I created some published dates and the questions as what's new. So let's go ahead and check all of that once more before I proceed into that. So I'll just type q period question underscore text, and it will give me WhatsApp q period published date. Okay, sorry, published date. So it's giving me a date time, perfect. And let's see what all questions we have in the field. Just question period. So it's giving me question colon question object. Now let's go ahead and modify this a bit as we were going to in the previous tutorial. So but to do that we need to go ahead and do some changes from over here. So over here, I'll just go and open the models.py file, and I will be adding a few things over here. So I'll first go ahead and define underscore unique code over here, and if you're using Python 3, then I'll show you what to do. You will not be using the Unicode over here if you're using Python 3. So I'll just go ahead and use underscore str underscore for Python 3.x, and after I have defined, I'll just type return self period underscore text. Perfect. And again I'll just type define underscore unique code underscore self. Again over here use 3.x return self period choice underscore text. Perfect. So as you can see that if you are using Python 3.x or any version of 3, then you need to go ahead and replace this Unicode with this string and copy that from over here. For 2.7 we are using Unicode. It is important to add the double underscore Unicode double underscore methods to your models, not only for your own convenience when dealing with the interactive prompt, but also because objects representations are used throughout Django's automatically generated admin. On Python 3, if we use string because on Python 2 you should define using Unicode methods, returning Unicode values instead. Django models have a default string method that calls Unicode and converts the result to a UTF-8 byte string. This means that Unicode P will return a Unicode string, and string P will return a byte string with characters encoded as UTF-8. Python does exactly the opposite. Object has a Unicode method that calls a string method and interprets the result as ASCII byte string. This difference can create confusion. If you are unable to understand what I'm exactly saying, just use this if you're using Python 2.7 2.x versions, and if you're using 3.x, just use the string version. So now I have created this. I need to do one more thing. I need to add one more stuff over here. So and since I need to go and import the date time, so I'll just type from Django period utils import time zone. So and I'll save it, and once I have done that, in the questions model I need to add one more stuff. I need to go ahead and define was underscore published underscore recently, Perfect. Was published underscore recently. And for that I need to go ahead and return self period publish underscore date equal to time zone period now date time period time date data. Okay, date time period. Okay, time zone period now colon parentheses minus date time date time delta, sorry, not date, time delta days equals to 1. Perfect. So note that the addition of the import date time from the Django utils from import time zone, it's to reference Python's standard date time module with and Django's time zone related utilities in the Django utils time zone. Especially if you're not familiar with the time zone handling, you can learn more in the zone support documents. Save these changes and start the Python interactive shell again. So I'll just go ahead and close this and this as well, and I'll start it once more. Perfect. So now I'll just go ahead and type Python manage period py shell and I'll just go ahead and type from polls.models import question choice. Okay, choice. Perfect. And make sure that our string has worked, so I'll just type question period objects period all. Okay, perfect. So oh no, sorry, wait, okay, question. Perfect. So as you can see that if you see this, that means your string or your Unicode, whichever you have used, is working. Now Django provides a rich database lookup API that's entirely driven by keyword arguments. So in order for us to do that, we need to type question and period objects period filter, and I need to go and ID that to 1. So it will go and ID that to 1. Now I need to go ahead and type question period objects period filter, and I'll type question underscore text underscore double underscore starts with equals to be capital W. So it is showing me WhatsApp. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and get this question from that this was from the published year. So I'll type from Django period utils import time zone, and I'll write current underscore year equals to time zone period now parentheses period year and question period objects period get score date double underscore year equals to current score year. Perfect. Question order. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and request an ID that does not exist. So this should go ahead and raise a question traceback error. So let's go ahead and see if that's happening. Question period objects period all, sorry, get colon ID equals to 2. Perfect. If I go ahead and use it to 1, it should show me. If I go ahead and use it to 2, it should not. Perfect traceback error. So as you can see that question matching query does not exist because we don't have that query. Now let's go and look up a primary key that is most common case. So Django provides a shortcut for the primary key exact lookups. So in order for us to do that, we should go ahead and type question period objects period get pk equals to 1, and our next step would be q equals to question period objects period get pk equals to 1, and let's check q was underscore published underscore recently. Okay, look, wait. Okay, it should be Q for global name date time is not defined. So it should either get as true, or since I have not defined the global name date time, it's showing me this error. It was Python 3, then it would surely have worked. So display any choices from the related set of objects. We can also go ahead and do that by typing q period choice underscore set period all and empty. Now let's go ahead and create a few choices. Q period choice underscore set period create, and let's go ahead and name the choice text equals to not what's up. So I'll just type not much, and let's go ahead and vote it to votes equals to 0, which is the default one. So choice not much. Let's go ahead and add one more. So choice underscore set period create choice underscore text equals to, let's say, what's up, the sky is up. Okay, I know it's a bad joke, but let's take it in a good manner, and I'll type votes equals to 0 again, which is the default one. So the sky is up, and let's see if c equals to q period choice. This is a different one that I'm going to set period create equals to, let's go ahead and type what will be the choice text, just Djangoing again, and votes. Okay, I do not want to activate, so votes equals to 0. So the choice objects have API access related to their question object. So if I go and type C question, then I should get what's up. If I go and vice versa, question objects get access to choice object. So if I go and type q period choice underscore set period all, I should get all the choices that I created. That is not much, sky is up, and just Djangoing again. So if I go want to see how many choices are there, I can type set choice period count. That will give me 3 since I have 3 choices available. So the API automatically follows relationships as far as you need. Use double underscores to separate relationships, and this works with as many level deep as you are. There's no limit. You can go ahead and find all the choices for any question whose published date is in this year, reusing the current day variable that we created above. So in order for us to do that, I can just type choice period objects period filter, and I can just type question double underscore pub underscore date double underscore year equals to current underscore year. So since done that, now let's delete one of the choices, and we will use the delete filter for that. So c equals to q period choice underscore set period filter starts. Okay, q period choice set filter choice text double underscore starts with equals to just. So anything that starts with just, go ahead and delete that. Okay, wait. Okay, it should be starts with. So c period delete. I have selected that. Now let's go ahead and check all the choices that we have. As you can see, I cannot see the last option, which was just Djangoing again, which I could see over here when I use the same command. So yeah, that is it for this tutorial, guys, and in the next tutorial I'll be going ahead and we will be seeing how we could go ahead and create the admin part and work out with that. So that's it for this tutorial. Into the next tutorial for Django Unchained with Python. So in today's tutorial, I'm teaching you about the admin part, how you could go ahead and create super users and manage your day-to-day database. So in the previous tutorial, we went through how we could actually go ahead and create different kind of poll applications. We did manage to create the blogger part over here and some polls part where we created the admin as well. So in this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how this admin works exactly. And let's go through this tutorial again. So I'll just go ahead and I'll open my command window over here. I don't think this will work because, okay, it won't work. I will just go ahead and run this through the system administrator. CD, it's the 3 drive. And let me check the drive. All trainer backup. CD change the night. CD change the night. And it's 2 8 logger CD logger. Okay, so we are here. Let me check if the Python is prompt is working. Perfect. And let's go ahead and check if our previously created is already working. Python manage.py run server. Perfect. So I'll just go ahead and copy this. Okay, I'll just copy it and I'll just paste it over here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, it's working. So now let's go ahead and check whether we have the admin part. Okay, as you can see, okay, this might be new for you as I've not yet taught to you before, but just remember this part. So I'll just go ahead and break this up. Okay, so now this tutorial will begin where I left off the previous tutorial. I'll be continuing with the same poll application and we will focus on Django's automatically generated admin site. So the main philosophy behind this is that generating admins for your staff or clients to add, change or delete content is a tedious work. It does not require much creativity. So for that reason, Django already has some type of models created for the admin interfaces. And Django was already written in a newsroom environment, and there was a clear separation between the content publishers and the public site. So site managers that use the system to add news stories, events, sports, scores, etc. And the content that is displayed on the public side will be displayed through the admin part. Django over here solves the problem of creating a unified interface for the site administrator to edit the content. So unlike the website CMS part where you have one website to go ahead and manage and another one to show, in Django, we will be managing everything in one part. That means if I want to edit, I'll be logging in from on the same website, and if I want to show something or display something, I'll be doing that on the same site again. So the admin part is not actually needed to be visited by the visitors. So it is only for the site managers. So let me show you how we could go ahead and create an admin. By default, if you go ahead and click over here /admin, it will take you to the admin page. Okay, yeah, it won't take you to the admin page right now, obviously, because I have stopped the server. But I'll show you that later on. So I'll just go ahead and create, I won't be able to expand this. So I'll just go ahead and type and I'll show you how we could go ahead and create our first user. So I'll just type Python space manage.py space and I'll type create super user. Since this Python is closely related to our own Linux operating system, the term over here is not admin exactly, it is the super user, which is known as admin in the Linux part. And I'll just hit enter. So it will ask me the username. I'll just type admin. Admin will be the username. Email address, you can go and provide any random dummy email ID. So I'll just type admin@admin.com. Password would be admin. And I'll just go ahead and type the password again. Perfect. So now I'll just go ahead and run the server again. Let's go ahead and refresh it. No. And now I'll just go ahead and type /admin. This is the admin part. I'll just type admin and admin. And if I hit enter, perfect. It has taken me to this new page. So you might be wondering that we never created any kind of groups or users or any other thing that you see over here. You can see the welcome admin, Django administration, view site. So the thing is that we can go ahead and edit all of these things. By default, Django provides this kind of interface, but we can provide, and we will see later on how we could go ahead and do that. So now we have started the development server. The Django site is activated by default. So let's start the development server and see what we can do. Now, if you think that this is it, that's not just that not it. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I have this different kind of port over here, this port, this IP address. I can modify each and everything over here. And since the translation is turned on by default, the login screen that may be displayed over you at your place would be in your own language. You won't see it in English. That's not compulsory. So this is how it looks like. And Django has a translation for this language as well. So, and just one thing, that if at this point of time, instead of the login page that you saw over here, that is this part, if you see something else that does not match what you see over here in my screen, then maybe what's happening is that you are trying to use any older version of Django. So that's the reason. So just go ahead and try to install the latest Django possible or upgrade it, and you will be back to where I am right now. So now once you go and log in, you should see a few steps over here, that's groups and users. So I can go ahead and create groups over here, and I can manage users as well. And if I go ahead and click on save and continue editing, I'll see a few steps which will actually go ahead and take a look later on. So I can go ahead and manage users, give them permissions as to what they should view and what they should not. So making the poll admin in poll app in Django is not that difficult at all. But you might be wondering that you can see groups, you can see users. Where is our poll app? You cannot see that. It's not displayed on the admin page. So the one thing that we need to do is that we need to tell the admin that the question objects have an admin interface. To do this, I'll just go over here in the polls. Over here you can see the admin, but this admin is not the same as the admin page. Just remember, this admin page is saved in the Django. I'll just go ahead and show it to you as to where it is exactly. It will be in Python 2.7. Over here, I believe it's in libraries. I do aside packages, Django. Okay, wait, okay, Django, and there should be apps. No, let me check. Okay, perfect. Over here it is. Okay, so this is the main admin part which you can see over here, and that's where it's located. So I'll just go back to where I was. That's here. So now let's go over here in the admin part, and we'll go ahead and modify this a bit. Okay, so over here you can see this basic part over here. So now that's just one thing to do that we need to do. We need to tell the admin that question objects have an admin interface, as I told you previously. Just open this polls admin.py file over here, and after that just go and type by default this part is written from Django contrib import admin. Don't do anything over there. Just go and type from period models import question and hit enter. And after that we need to tell the admin side as to because we need to register that. So I'll just type admin period site period register parentheses question. That's the object. So, and I'll just go ahead and save it. I'll close. Now you can go ahead and check the free admin functionality. So I'll just go over here. I'll just break it and run it once more. Let's see what we see over here. Perfect. You can see the polls part, and you can go ahead and add questions over here. So I'll just add one random question, that's what's up, and it will be like today, now, and I'll just save and continue editing, and I'll just go to the polls part. So if I go to the home, you can see the questions. I have the WhatsApp part. I believe I just entered twice. If I go ahead and delete it, let's see if I'm able to. Polls, questions, perfect, no questions over here. But we cannot see any choice over here, because if there are questions, then we need choice as to what happened exactly. But yes, we can do that as well. And yes, just one more thing that I would like to tell you, that since I have the debug section true, anyone, this is very extremely insecure, and you need to keep this false when you're actually going to make your website live. Because if this is true, then any random person can come over here and change anything, which you don't want, obviously. So you can go ahead and change that part from over here. You can go back over here and then you can go ahead and open your settings. Over here, you will see this specific, okay, let me check where it is. Okay, debug rule. You need to change that to false. And in over here in allowed host, you need to go ahead and change the specific stuff such as the IP addresses, or you can, if you can just simply go and type star, so it will allow each and every other type of IP addresses from which they can, where they can access it. Yes, I'll just go ahead and close because so now I need this to be true. So that would be it for this tutorial, guys. And in the next tutorial, I'll be teaching you how we could create this WhatsApp question or any kind of different question dynamically through the command line, and how we can add multiple choices through it. And yeah, that's it. And now we will not be using the graphic user interface much because when you're actually going ahead and modifying some websites, it's not actually good, unlike the website CMS part where you actually go do everything through the graphic user interface. In Django, this is a developer interface. You don't do anything like in a real-time basis over through the graphic user interface. Over here, you do everything dynamic. So yeah, that would be it for this tutorial, guys. In the next tutorial, we will go ahead and check how we could go ahead and create the same questions through the command line interface.